Consistency is the key to success because it creates a foundation for growth, progress, and achievement in every area of life. When people look at successful individuals, whether they are athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, or leaders, they often focus on their talents, intelligence, or the opportunities they've had. However, what truly sets them apart is not just their abilities, but their ability to show up and put in the work every single day, regardless of circumstances. Talent may give someone an initial advantage, but without consistency, that advantage fades over time because it is the repeated effort, day after day, that turns potential into reality. Consistency helps in building habits that shape behaviors, and once a behavior becomes a habit, it no longer relies solely on motivation, which is fleeting and unreliable. Motivation can come and go, but habits built through consistent effort create discipline, and discipline is what carries people forward when motivation runs out. Consistency also builds momentum, and momentum is a powerful force that makes it easier to keep going. When you work on something regularly, even in small increments, you create a rhythm, and that rhythm helps you maintain focus and progress. Think of it like pushing a heavy wheel. The first few pushes require a lot of effort, but once it starts rolling, it takes less energy to keep it moving. That's the power of momentum, and it only comes from consistent effort. People often underestimate the impact of small, repeated actions because they expect quick results, but success is rarely about sudden, dramatic breakthroughs. It's about the accumulation of small wins, day after day, that compound over time to create extraordinary outcomes. This compounding effect is visible in everything from learning a new skill to improving physical fitness to growing a business, because each day's effort builds on the previous one, creating a snowball effect that leads to significant progress. Consistency also fosters trust, both in yourself and from others. When you consistently show up, meet your commitments, and deliver results, you build a reputation for reliability and dependability. People begin to trust you because they know they can count on you, and that trust opens doors to new opportunities, collaborations, and relationships. But perhaps even more importantly, consistency helps you build trust in yourself. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you reinforce your belief in your ability to achieve your goals, and this self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Confidence doesn't come from occasional success, it comes from knowing that you have the discipline to do the work, even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it. Another reason consistency is the key to success is that it allows for continuous improvement. When you engage in deliberate practice regularly, you can identify areas where you need to improve, make adjustments, and refine your approach. This process of consistent reflection and adjustment leads to mastery because no one becomes great at something overnight. It's the result of thousands of hours of focused, intentional effort, and without consistency, you miss the opportunity to learn from your mistakes, gain new insights, and develop your skills. Consistency also helps in overcoming obstacles because when you face challenges, it's not the one-time bursts of effort that help you push through. It's the habit of perseverance built through consistent action that keeps you going. Furthermore, consistency helps to manage emotions and reduces the overwhelming feeling that often comes with big goals. When you break down your goals into small, manageable tasks and work on them consistently, you avoid the stress and burnout that come from trying to do too much at once because this steady approach keeps you grounded and focused, making even the biggest goals feel achievable. It also reinforces the idea that progress doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful, because consistency doesn't mean doing things flawlessly. It means showing up, doing your best with what you have, and being okay with imperfection as long as you keep moving forward. In the end, consistency is not about grand gestures or dramatic changes. It's about the simple, often boring, daily actions that, when done repeatedly, create extraordinary results. It's about choosing to show up even when you're tired, even when you're not in the mood, even when progress feels slow, because success isn't a destination you arrive at, it's the result of the choices you make every single day. And the most powerful choice you can make is to be consistent. Small actions compound over time because every effort, no matter how insignificant it may seem in the moment, contributes to a larger outcome when repeated consistently. People often underestimate the power of small actions because they expect immediate results, but true growth and success rarely happen overnight. It's not the big, dramatic gestures that create lasting change, it's the tiny steps taken day after day that build momentum and lead to extraordinary achievements. Just like a single drop of water doesn't seem powerful on its own, yet over time, those drops can carve through rock. Small actions, when compounded, have the ability to shape lives, careers, and destinies. This concept is often referred to as the compound effect, where consistent, repeated efforts create exponential growth, even if progress feels slow at first because the results don't show up immediately, leading many people to give up before they experience the true impact of their efforts. Consider someone trying to learn a new language. Studying for just 15 minutes a day might not seem like much, and after a week, they might feel like they haven't made significant progress. But if they continue that habit every day for a year, they would have invested over 90 hours into learning that language, which could lead to a remarkable level of fluency compared to doing nothing at all, because each small lesson builds on the previous one, creating a strong foundation of knowledge over time. This applies to fitness as well, because going to the gym for one intense session won't make a noticeable difference, but working out regularly, even with moderate effort, transforms the body and improves health because the body responds to consistent training, adapting and growing stronger with each session, even if the changes are subtle in the beginning. The beauty of small actions is that they are manageable and sustainable, which makes them less overwhelming than trying to achieve big goals all at once. When people set huge, ambitious goals without breaking them down into smaller tasks, they often feel discouraged by the magnitude of the work required. But when those goals are divided into daily actions, progress feels attainable because each small victory provides a sense of accomplishment, creating motivation to keep going. This process of incremental progress not only builds skills, but also reinforces positive habits, making the actions feel automatic over time because the brain forms neural pathways through repetition, turning deliberate effort into second nature. Financial growth is another area where the power of compounding is clearly visible because investing small amounts of money regularly, even with modest returns, can lead to significant wealth over time due to the effect of compound interest. The same principle applies to personal development because reading just a few pages of a book each day may not feel transformative in the short term, but over months and years, that habit leads to a wealth of knowledge and new perspectives because the accumulation of ideas, experiences, and insights shapes a person's mindset and worldview. The challenge with small actions is that they often don't provide immediate gratification, which can be discouraging because people are conditioned to seek quick results and instant feedback. But meaningful progress requires patience and trust in the process because the effects of compounding are invisible at first, much like planting a seed that takes time to grow roots before it breaks through the soil. During this phase, it's easy to feel like nothing is happening, but beneath the surface, growth is occurring, and with continued effort, the results eventually become visible and even accelerate over time because once momentum is built, progress feels faster and more rewarding. In relationships, small actions like daily acts of kindness, consistent communication, and showing appreciation strengthen bonds over time because it's not grand gestures that maintain healthy connections, but the ongoing effort to nurture trust and understanding because people remember how they're treated consistently, not just during special occasions. This principle applies to professional life as well because showing up on time, meeting deadlines, and consistently delivering quality work build a reputation that opens doors to new opportunities because reliability and dedication are valued traits that are developed through small, consistent actions. Ultimately, the power of small actions lies in their ability to create lasting change without overwhelming effort, because they are easy to start, maintain, and build upon, creating a ripple effect that extends far beyond the initial effort, because every small step, when repeated over time, compounds into something much greater than the sum of its parts, because success is not the result of one big effort, but the accumulation of countless small decisions, actions, and habits that shape the path to achievement. Accountability drives discipline because when you know someone is watching, expecting, or relying on you to follow through with your commitments, it creates an internal pressure to stay consistent with your actions. While self-motivation can get you started, accountability ensures that you keep going even when motivation fades, because it adds an external layer of responsibility that pushes you to act, especially on days when you don't feel like it. Discipline is about doing what needs to be done, regardless of your mood or circumstances, and accountability serves as a powerful tool to strengthen that discipline because it holds you to a standard that goes beyond your personal feelings. When you're accountable to someone, a mentor, a coach, a friend, or even a group, you're less likely to make excuses or procrastinate because you know that your actions, or lack thereof, will be noticed and possibly questioned. This external pressure is not about fear or judgment, but about creating a system where your goals are supported by people who want to see you succeed, because having someone to answer to can be the difference between giving up and pushing through difficult moments. For example, consider a person trying to adopt a healthier lifestyle, because if they rely solely on personal motivation, they might skip workouts or make unhealthy food choices when they're tired or stressed. But if they have a workout partner or a coach who checks in regularly, they are more likely to stick with their routine because they don't want to disappoint the person who's holding them accountable. This sense of responsibility to others fosters discipline because it shifts the focus from temporary feelings to long-term commitments, because when you know your actions affect someone else's perception of your reliability, you naturally develop a stronger sense of duty. Accountability also helps in creating clarity around goals, because when you share your objectives with others, you're forced to articulate what you want to achieve, why it matters, and how you plan to get there. Because this process of defining and communicating your goals makes them more concrete and less abstract, which in turn makes it easier to develop disciplined habits to support them. Moreover, regular check-ins with an accountability partner or group provide opportunities to reflect on your progress, identify challenges, and adjust your strategies, because this ongoing feedback loop reinforces a disciplined mindset, helping you stay on track even when obstacles arise. Another important aspect of accountability is that it helps you develop resilience, because knowing that you'll have to report back on your actions encourages you to find solutions instead of giving up when faced with difficulties, because the fear of admitting failure can be a powerful motivator to keep trying even when things get tough. Over time, this persistence strengthens your discipline as you become more accustomed to pushing through discomfort and setbacks, because you understand that consistent effort, even in the face of adversity, is essential for growth. Accountability doesn't always have to come from other people, because self-accountability is equally powerful when practiced effectively, because setting personal benchmarks, tracking your progress, and regularly reviewing your goals can create a strong internal sense of discipline, because when you hold yourself to high standards and develop the habit of reflecting on your actions, you build the self-awareness needed to recognize when you're slipping and the determination to get back on track. Tools like journals, habit trackers, or setting personal deadlines can enhance self-accountability by providing tangible ways to measure your progress and stay disciplined. In professional environments, accountability is often built into the structure of teams and organizations, because deadlines, performance reviews, and collaborative projects naturally create systems where individuals are responsible not just for their own tasks, but for contributing to the success of the group, because knowing that your work impacts others fosters a sense of discipline that drives consistent performance, because no one wants to be the weak link that lets the team down. This dynamic can be harnessed in personal development as well by creating mastermind groups, study circles, or goal-setting partnerships where everyone supports each other's growth through mutual accountability, because the shared commitment to progress creates an environment where discipline thrives. The psychological impact of accountability is rooted in our natural desire for social connection and approval, because humans are wired to seek validation and avoid letting others down, which makes accountability an effective tool for behavior change, because when you commit to something privately, it's easy to rationalize excuses. But when that commitment is public, there's a social cost to not following through. This external reinforcement complements internal discipline, creating a balanced approach to goal achievement, because while intrinsic motivation is important, having external accountability provides an additional layer of motivation that keeps you disciplined even when your internal drive wavers. Ultimately, accountability is not just about meeting expectations. It's about creating a structure that supports your growth, reinforces your commitments, and helps you build the discipline needed to achieve your goals. Because when you know someone is counting on you, whether it's a coach, a friend, or your future self, you're more likely to stay focused, consistent, and determined, because accountability transforms discipline from a personal struggle into a shared journey, making success not just a possibility, but an expectation. Developing non-negotiable routines is one of the most effective ways to build discipline and achieve long-term success, because routines remove the need to rely on fluctuating motivation or willpower. When something becomes a non-negotiable part of your day, it shifts from being an optional task to an automatic behavior that you do without questioning or overthinking. This level of consistency is critical because it eliminates the internal debate about whether or not you should do something, saving mental energy for more complex decisions. Non-negotiable routines create structure, which provides a sense of control and stability, because having set activities that you commit to daily helps anchor your day, giving it a predictable rhythm that reduces stress and uncertainty. For example, brushing your teeth isn't something you debate every morning. You just do it because it's a habit ingrained in your daily life. And that's exactly how non-negotiable routines work for other areas like fitness, productivity, or personal development. One of the key benefits of non-negotiable routines is that they help build momentum, because when you consistently show up for yourself, even in small ways, you create a pattern of success that reinforces itself over time. This momentum makes it easier to maintain discipline, because you develop a track record of commitment that boosts your confidence and motivation. Consider an athlete who trains every day, regardless of how they feel, because the routine itself becomes part of their identity. They don't think, should I work out today? They simply do it because it's what they do. This shift from decision making to automatic action is powerful, because it removes the emotional ups and downs that can derail progress, because you're not waiting to feel inspired or energized, you're just following through on what you've committed to. Non-negotiable routines also help manage time effectively, because when certain activities are scheduled and prioritized without exception, they create a framework that makes it easier to organize the rest of your day. This reduces procrastination, because there's less room for distractions or excuses when your key tasks are already embedded into your routine. For example, if you decide that reading for 30 minutes every morning is non-negotiable, you'll naturally structure your morning around that habit, which helps prevent wasted time and fosters a sense of accomplishment early in the day, because starting with a productive routine sets a positive tone that can carry through to other tasks. Another important aspect of non-negotiable routines is that they build resilience, because life is unpredictable, and relying solely on motivation means your progress will suffer when challenges arise. However, when you have routines that are deeply ingrained, you're more likely to stay consistent even when things get tough because the routine acts as an anchor that keeps you grounded amid stress, fatigue, or uncertainty. This is why successful people often emphasize the importance of morning or evening routines because these structured rituals create a sense of control and stability that helps them navigate both good and bad days with the same level of discipline. Developing non-negotiable routines starts with identifying the habits that align with your goals because it's important to choose activities that have a meaningful impact on your personal or professional growth. Once you've identified these key habits, the next step is to schedule them into your day with the same level of commitment you'd give to an important meeting or appointment. Because treating your routines with this level of seriousness signals to your mind that they are priorities, not optional tasks. Consistency is key in this process because habits take time to form, and the more consistently you perform an activity, the more automatic it becomes because repetition strengthens the neural pathways in your brain, making the behavior feel natural over time. Accountability can also play a role in reinforcing non-negotiable routines because sharing your commitments with others or tracking your progress can help you stay on course, especially in the early stages when the habit hasn't fully formed. For example, using a habit tracker to mark off each day you complete your routine creates a visual representation of your consistency, which can be highly motivating because you'll want to maintain the streak and avoid breaking the chain of success. Additionally, reflecting on how your routines are impacting your life can provide valuable insights and reinforce the benefits of staying disciplined because when you see tangible improvements in your productivity, health, or personal growth, it strengthens your commitment to maintaining those routines. Flexibility within structure is another important concept because while routines should be non-negotiable, it's also important to adapt them when necessary to fit changing circumstances. The key is to maintain the habit itself, even if the details need to be adjusted because life isn't always predictable. But having a flexible mindset within a disciplined framework allows you to stay consistent without becoming rigid or discouraged when things don't go perfectly. For example, if your routine includes a daily workout but you're traveling or feeling under the weather, you might modify the workout rather than skip it entirely because this approach maintains the habit while respecting your current situation. Ultimately, non-negotiable routines are about creating a lifestyle that supports your goals and values because when your daily actions align with the person you want to become, success becomes a natural outcome of your consistent effort. Routines aren't just about productivity. They're about designing your life with intention, where the small actions you take every day compound over time to create meaningful results. Because discipline isn't just about doing hard things, it's about making the important things automatic so that success isn't left to chance, but built into the fabric of your everyday life. Excuses hold you back because they create a false sense of comfort that shields you from the discomfort of facing your own shortcomings or taking responsibility for your actions. When people make excuses, they often believe they are protecting themselves from failure, embarrassment, or disappointment. But in reality, excuses act as invisible barriers that prevent growth and progress because they shift the focus away from solutions and place it on problems that seem out of one's control. This mindset is dangerous because it convinces you that your circumstances are the reason for your lack of success, when in fact, it's the refusal to take consistent action despite those circumstances that holds you back. Excuses often sound reasonable, which makes them even more dangerous because they trick you into believing they are valid justifications. But deep down, they are nothing more than self-imposed limitations that block you from reaching your full potential. The problem with excuses is that they allow short-term relief at the cost of long-term progress because every time you make an excuse, you avoid the immediate discomfort of effort, failure, or accountability, but you also delay the satisfaction of achievement and the lessons that come from perseverance. For example, saying you don't have time to exercise may feel like a valid excuse, especially with a busy schedule, but the truth is that time is often a matter of priorities because if something is important enough, you will find a way to make time for it, even if it means waking up earlier, cutting down on distractions, or adjusting your routine. The habit of making excuses reinforces a fixed mindset, where you believe that your abilities and circumstances are static and unchangeable, which stops you from trying new things or pushing beyond your comfort zone because you've already convinced yourself that success isn't possible. Excuses also erode self-confidence over time because when you consistently avoid challenges or responsibilities, you miss opportunities to prove to yourself that you're capable of overcoming obstacles. Confidence is built through action and experience, not through avoiding difficulties, because every time you face a challenge head on and work through it, you strengthen your belief in your own abilities. On the other hand, making excuses chips away at that belief, leaving you feeling powerless and stuck because deep down you know that you're not living up to your potential. This creates a cycle where the more excuses you make, the less confident you feel, and the less confident you feel, the more excuses you make, which becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that keeps you from growing. Another way excuses hold you back is by fostering a victim mentality, because when you constantly blame external factors for your lack of progress, you give away your power to change your situation. This mindset makes it easy to believe that success is only possible for people with perfect circumstances, more resources, or better luck, which simply isn't true because there are countless examples of individuals who have achieved incredible things despite facing significant obstacles. The difference is that they chose to focus on what they could control rather than what they couldn't, because they understood that while they couldn't always change their circumstances, they could always change their response to them. Taking ownership of your life, even when things are difficult, is empowering because it puts you back in the driver's seat, where you have the ability to make decisions and take actions that move you forward. Excuses also prevent learning and growth because failure is often the best teacher. But when you make excuses, you miss the opportunity to reflect on what went wrong and how you can improve. Instead of analyzing mistakes and identifying areas for growth, excuses allow you to deflect responsibility and avoid uncomfortable self-reflection, because growth requires honesty and the willingness to face your flaws head on. For example, if you fail a test and blame the teacher for being unfair instead of acknowledging that you didn't study enough, you miss the chance to adjust your study habits and improve for the next exam. The same applies to personal goals, relationships, careers, and almost every area of life, because the lessons that lead to success are often hidden within failures, but you can only uncover them if you're willing to take responsibility instead of making excuses. Breaking the habit of making excuses starts with self-awareness, because you need to recognize when you're falling into the trap of blaming external factors instead of focusing on what you can control. This requires honesty and the courage to hold yourself accountable, because it's not always easy to admit when you've fallen short. But it's the first step toward growth, because once you identify the excuses you've been making, you can challenge them by asking whether they are truly valid or just convenient. For example, if you tell yourself you're too tired to work on a project, ask yourself if that's really true, or if you're just avoiding the discomfort of getting started, because often the hardest part is simply beginning. And once you do, you realize it wasn't as difficult as you imagined. Replacing excuses with action is another key strategy, because even small steps can break the cycle of procrastination and avoidance, because action creates momentum, and momentum makes it easier to keep going. Instead of waiting for the perfect conditions or the right motivation, commit to taking consistent action regardless of how you feel, because discipline is built through repetition, not inspiration. Surrounding yourself with people who challenge you to be your best can also help reduce the tendency to make excuses, because accountability pushes you to rise above your comfort zone. Because when you have people who support you but also call you out when you're not living up to your potential, it's harder to hide behind excuses. Ultimately, excuses may offer temporary comfort, but they come at the cost of growth, achievement, and self-respect, because every time you choose an excuse over action, you reinforce the belief that you're not capable of more, which simply isn't true, because you are capable of far more than you think. But you'll never discover that potential if you keep giving yourself permission to stay the same, because growth happens when you stop making excuses and start taking ownership of your life, one decision at a time. Consistency becomes identity because the actions you repeat every day shape who you are at the core, not just what you do. Your habits and routines reflect your values, priorities, and beliefs, and over time they create a pattern that defines your character, because what you consistently choose to do forms the foundation of how you see yourself and how others perceive you. When you engage in certain behaviors regularly, they shift from being conscious decisions to automatic parts of your life. And this repetition reinforces a specific identity because the brain begins to associate your actions with your sense of self. For example, if you consistently show up to the gym, even on days when you don't feel like it, you're not just someone who works out. You start to see yourself as a disciplined, health-conscious person because the repeated behavior shapes your identity more powerfully than occasional bursts of motivation ever could. This transformation happens gradually because identity isn't built through isolated events or one-time efforts, but through the steady accumulation of small, consistent actions. Each time you follow through on a commitment, you cast a vote for the type of person you want to become, because every action reinforces the belief that you are capable, reliable, and dedicated. If you write every day, even if it's just a paragraph, you start to see yourself as a writer because it's not about the size of the effort, but the consistency of the practice. This is why people who achieve long-term success in any field often emphasize the importance of daily habits, because it's the routine, not the occasional achievement, that shapes their identity and sustains their growth. Consistency also creates a sense of integrity because when your actions align with your goals and values on a regular basis, you develop self-trust because you prove to yourself that you can rely on your own discipline, even when it's challenging. This internal alignment is crucial because it eliminates the gap between who you say you are and what you actually do, fostering a strong, authentic identity that's built on action, not just intention. For instance, if you consistently treat others with kindness and respect, regardless of the situation, you don't just perform acts of kindness, you become a genuinely kind person because your behavior is a reflection of your character, not a performance based on convenience or circumstance. The power of consistency lies in its ability to override temporary emotions and external circumstances because life is unpredictable, and relying on motivation alone is unreliable since motivation fluctuates with mood, environment, and energy levels. However, when behaviors are rooted in consistency, they become habits that you perform automatically, even when you're tired, stressed, or uninspired, because they are part of who you are, not just something you do when it's easy. This is why professional athletes, successful entrepreneurs, and high performers in any field maintain strict routines. They understand that their identity as a leader, athlete, or expert is reinforced not in moments of peak performance, but in the daily grind, in the hours of unseen work when no one is watching. Consistency also has a compounding effect because the benefits of repeated actions grow exponentially over time. A single workout doesn't make you fit, and one healthy meal doesn't transform your health, but when these actions are repeated consistently, they create lasting changes because the results are the cumulative outcome of small efforts performed over time. The same principle applies to skills, relationships, and personal growth because showing up consistently, even with small efforts, leads to mastery, deep connections, and significant self-improvement because every repetition strengthens your competence and confidence, making the behavior more natural and integrated into your identity. Another important aspect of consistency is that it provides clarity and focus because when you commit to specific routines or habits, you eliminate decision fatigue, the mental exhaustion that comes from making too many choices. Consistency reduces the mental load because certain actions become non-negotiable parts of your day, freeing up mental space for creativity, problem solving, and other complex tasks because you're not constantly debating whether or not to do the work. You just do it because it's part of who you are. This clarity also helps you set boundaries because when you have a strong sense of identity tied to consistent behaviors, you're less likely to be swayed by distractions or peer pressure because you know what matters to you and what doesn't align with your goals. Consistency isn't about perfection because there will be days when you miss a workout, break a habit, or fall short of your goals. But what matters is how quickly you get back on track because true consistency is measured over the long term, not in isolated moments of failure. In fact, the ability to return to your routines after setbacks is part of what solidifies your identity because it shows resilience and commitment to the process. This mindset shift from focusing on perfection to focusing on persistence is what separates those who achieve lasting success from those who give up when things get tough. Because consistency isn't about never falling, it's about always getting back up. Ultimately, consistency becomes identity because what you do repeatedly shapes how you think, feel, and behave, creating a feedback loop where actions reinforce beliefs and beliefs reinforce actions. This loop strengthens your sense of self, making it easier to maintain positive habits and harder to engage in behaviors that contradict your core identity because you no longer see habits as tasks to complete but as expressions of who you are. When consistency becomes part of your identity, success is no longer a goal to reach, it's a natural outcome of living in alignment with your values and commitments, making growth and achievement an ongoing process rather than a destination.